Okay, we are now live on YouTube, and I'm just going to hit the record button. So we're now being recorded. The attendees are flooding in, which is brilliant. So Alex, okay, we are now live on YouTube, and I'm just going to hit it over to you then in that case. Thanks very much.
Would I leave a few minutes for people to come in, or we're all in?
I think, yeah, I think most of them are in now. There'll probably be a couple of people who'll still filter through, but I think most people are in.
Okay, so it is my great pleasure to open our third webinar for today. As you know, we had already 2 webinars this morning, and we're having another 2 later in the afternoon. And as you all know, each webinar is covering a particular region. Now we're focusing on Europe, and we'll have speakers from UK and Cyprus. Although this is the webinar which is specifically focusing on Europe, we will actually see that all regions are facing some similar environmental challenges, and this will be an opportunity for all of us to focus on those challenges. My name is Alexandra Kowalski, and I'm the Professor of Environmental Law at University of Birmingham, and I will be chairing this session. And as you can maybe already suspect, the aim of this session is to think more widely about experiences and challenges that we have across Commonwealth, and also how faith communities are responding to those challenges. And I think our aim today is to share some excellent practices or where faith communities are leading particular initiatives, and those initiatives are making a significant contribution to environmental sustainability and also climate change action. So this is in a way an opportunity for us to celebrate those contributions, but at the same time learn from each other. And I'm very much looking forward to this, especially as someone who researches in environmental law. But before we begin, I also want to thank my colleague, Professor Andrew Davis, for hosting and organizing this event. And also I want to thank our speakers today who kindly, during the summertime, accepted to talk today. And also I want to thank our participants for joining us today, and I really hope that we're all going to enjoy this session. What I just want to give you a few kind of tips about today. So this is a session which is lasting for 75 minutes. We're going to have 3 speakers, and when our speakers finish with their presentations, we're going to have a discussion. As you will see, and you're all seeing that this is a recorded session, and it will be subsequently broadcasted on Facebook and YouTube, so please take note of that. Also during the presentations, I will kindly invite you to put your questions into the chat box. You may have questions, you may have observation, comments, so please by all means put all in the chat, and then during the discussions we will try to answer as many as we can. And without further ado, if you don't mind, I will start introducing our speakers for today. It is my great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Jagbir Juchi Johal, who is a reader in Sikh Studies in the Department of Theology and Religion at University of Birmingham. Dr. Jagbir has over 20 years of experience in teaching and research, and provides extensive knowledge and experience in Sikh theology, interfaith dialogue, and contemporary issues facing the Sikh community. Her research covers issues of gender inequality, Sikh identity in the diasporic community, racialization and mistaken identity, and other contested issues that confront the Sikh community nationally but also globally. Her work in the Edward Cadbury Center for Public Understanding of Religion looks at public policy, social and political engagement issues as they affect and are affected by the British Sikh community. Dr. Juchi Johal was a commissioner on the Commission on Religion and Belief in the British Public Life, which was convened in 2013 by Wolf Institute. She's currently a steering group member on the UK Freedom of Religion or Belief Forum. At the same time, she's a regular presenter of the Thought for the Day segment on the BBC Radio Sport Today program, and she's also a board member and trustee on a number of organizations, some of which include Faith for the Climate Network and the Ozan Foundation. Jack Beer is also involved in voluntary work within the community, especially around gender and children's issues. So I would welcome Jack Beer, and I will leave the floor to you. And thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen. 1 second. Oh, 1 second. So I'm going to reflect on what we are seeing with reference to climate change nationally, but also globally, and reflect on Sikh teachings on how to address the issue and look at some of the activism that is being taking place globally around the world. So COVID-19 has certainly given us a chance to reflect on the environment and the loss and damage that we have done to it. Sharply highlighted by nature healing during lockdown due to social, economic and industrial activity having stopped. We saw improvement in the quality of air, cleaner rivers, less noise pollution, and for me personally, the visibility of the Himalayan mountains from Punjab was breathtaking. This difficult time has given us all a chance to re-examine our relationship with the living world and in turn reflect on how we wish the economy to function post-pandemic so that we achieve environmental, health and economic prosperity for all. However, putting these ideas into practice will certainly be challenging and we will all need to work together so that we do not fall back into habits of old. I also want to reflect just on the G7. The G7 meeting in Cornwall raised some important challenges and questions for world leaders to address around climate change. And as we look forward to COP26, it is clear that current plans under the Paris Agreement need tougher targets and implementation. Because as Lord Stern, the climate economist, said, this is a crucial moment in history. Either we recover from the pandemic in a strong and sustainable way, or we do not. We are at a real fork in the road. The decade is decisive. So David Attenborough also reminds us, staying below 1.5 degrees is the only chance we have of avoiding these tipping points and stabilizing our world again. And if we just think about the last month, we have seen heavy rains across Europe, Belgium, Italy, and Germany, as well as in China and India. But we've also seen heat waves in the US, Canada, and the UK. So it's clear that something needs to be done. Rather than the repercussions of environmental change simply being a theoretical issue, faith communities are also seeing these concerns as survival issues for those living in many parts of the world. They are aware of the loss and damage caused to the environment and in turn ourselves, especially the negative economic impacts, particularly on developing countries, where people experience economic but also non-economic losses and damage on their communities, infrastructure, and natural environment. These impacts lead to harm to human health, poverty, hunger, disease, but also cultural heritage and traditions due to people movement in response to climate impact. As a Sikh, I am very conscious of how Punjab has been affected by climate change, failure of the Green Revolution and negative impact that this has had on the land of Punjab, but also the impact it has had on fellow Sikhs, such as increasing farmers' suicides due to debt and poor crops, and then the gendered impact. Punjab has also shown me that we cannot assume that environmental change affects everyone similarly, or even that it affects the marginalized in similar ways. We have to recognize difference and how it does often serve to make women and young people more vulnerable, and they have a unique experience as environmental refugees or due to food insecurity. Faith communities globally, but also nationally in the UK, have already recognized the seriousness of the situation and taken the responsibility, and one could argue a religious duty, to play a role in protecting the future ecology of the planet. Faith communities have within their religious teachings instructions and duty to do what they can to ensure they are environmentally responsible. And this is true for the Sikh community. Sikh groups demonstrate that their spiritual approaches towards the environment and earth have one common message, which is protecting God's creation. There's a verse within our Holy Scripture which says, "The Lord infused his light into the dust and created the world, the universe, the sky, the earth, the trees, and the water. All are the creation of the Lord." There are numerous teachings and images of the 10 gurus surrounded by nature. And here are a few. For example, Guru Nanak sitting under a tree. Another image here, again. And then I just put this one in. This is an embroidery done by my grandma of Guru Nanak, replicating some of those images under a tree with flowers and everything around it. So if we think along those lines, further, the Guru Granth Sahib refers to various species of trees, eulogizing species which are useful to the world and its various beings and creatures. The Gurus inferred that the environment was significant and that we had to respect and care for it. And this image that I have here is of a tree, the Panjani berry, which is at the Golden Temple, Harmandir Sahib in Amritsar. And I also have another one, which is another tree at the Gurdwara Bear Sahib, which is in Sultanpur, Lodi. Right? Sikhs, for example, can also draw on verses from the scripture to guide us on how to live in harmony with the environment, because every creature in this world, every plant, every form is created by the Creator and is a manifestation of the Creator. You yourself are the bumblebee, the flower, the fruit, and the tree. You yourself are the water, the desert, the ocean, and the pool. You yourself are the great fish, the tortoise, the cause of causes. Your form cannot be known. Thus, because God is dwelling in all his creation, Sikh scripture teaches us to revere the earth as a dharamsal, a sacred place established by the Lord to practice dharma and rightful living. In the midst of these, he established the earth as a home for dharma. Guru Nanak also talks about how the earth, Bhavan Guru Pani Pita Mata Tartmat, air is our teacher, water our father, and the great sacred earth is our mother. The central theological belief is that the one God pervades in everything. Thus, the environment is a manifestation of God, and abusing it is tantamount to abusing God. The earth, therefore, requires our respect, our gratitude, and ethical conduct, because like a parent, it selflessly and lovingly nurtures and sustains us. It is only by living in harmony with nature that water, air, land, forest, and biodiversity will remain vibrant living systems for our generation and future generations. The importance of air, water, and earth to life are emphasized over and over within this holy scripture, the Guru Granth Sahib. The earth is referred, as I've mentioned, as the mother, and as such requires that respect that we need to accord it. It's also important to note that with air, water, earth, and the sky being the homes of God, these are sacred places which need to be protected and looked after. The Sikh Gurus built many gurdwaras surrounded by large pools which supported marine life, especially fish. And when you visit the Golden Temple or Harmandir Sahib, you will see that in the pool surrounding the Golden Temple. And this was a clear sign to live in harmony with nature rather than to be in conflict with it. This therefore reminds Sikhs that we are all stewards, custodians, who have a shared moral and ethical responsibility to safeguard and protect all life, Sarbat Dapara, and live in harmony with nature, because human and environmental health are mutually dependent. Sikhs have long engaged in social justice and civic action. The activism is inspired by the values and ideals of seva, selfless service, and Sarbat Dapala, welfare of all, which whilst always taken to imply work towards the collective good of humanity, is now also linked to the environment so that we provide service to nature. Sikh environmental engagement also reminds Sikhs of the concept of Miri Piri, which refers to the spiritual and temporal domain and instructs followers to embody both for the collective good of the environment, and this was highlighted by a particular activist in India who is referred to as Eco Baba. Sant Balbir Singh Sitwal is known as Eco Baba because of his project to rejuvenate the river Kaliban, and is revered in India by the community, but also by politicians for the work that he has done selflessly to clear up the environmental damage that has been caused there. So these are just some of the images of the work that he has been doing in his efforts to clear the river. In terms of clearing the river Bain, the government of India has also collaborated with him in creating low-cost sewage models in terms of underground sewage systems in ponds, and is also working around agriculture and irrigation. Around 50 villages have benefited in using Eco Baba's model, and farmers have been able to participate in organic farming because of it. Eco Baba has also worked with the global community in the fight to eliminate extreme poverty, ignorance, and even superstition, and work towards a world with true gender equality, which is to protect through the environment. He has established schools, but also colleges, where he has advanced technical education so that he can alleviate poverty that might be prevalent within the society. Other than being known as Eco Baba, the Time magazine crowned him as the hero of the environment, claiming him as the only Indian and the only Asian, which gave him the title of being the only Indian and the only Asian to receive such an honor. Now, we can also turn to another organization called EcoSeek. It is an EcoSeek has taken Sikh teachings to develop projects like the Million Tree Project to mark the 550th birth anniversary of Guru Nanak. But they are also working towards making Gurdwaras environmentally friendly in their attempt to address environmental, but also social justice, health inequality, and food insecurity issues. EcoSeek have been planting trees across the world, and they have created sacred forests, but also within the UK parks, which have been populated by trees. So here are just some of the images of some of the tree planting taking place in the UK, but also in Thailand. Finally, there is another organization called Karma Grow, and that is a Canadian-based organization which is focused on building community gardens to provide food banks, which is with a sustainable source of fresh vegetables, and to promote the Sikh principles of Sarvada Phala, the well-being of all, and Seva, selfless service. Karma Grow works with various stakeholders to develop and maintain community gardens for the good of partner food banks, which will also, these community gardens are also embedded on the notion of being environmentally friendly. The main operational areas in which this social enterprise plans to create change is in community regeneration, sustainable development, and environmental preservation. This type of innovation that Karma Grow aims to pursue is transformational, and they are attempting to change the culture of food assistance so that the local communities are capable of providing for themselves. This means increasing the production capability and the mindset of the community to provide fresh produce in addition to the more common non-perishable goods that food banks receive. This is a similar initiative to another one called Zero Hunger with Langar, which started serving nutritious food daily at places of education across southern Malawi. They're currently serving up to 150,000 meals there, but they have also helped the community to become self-sufficient in producing this food. In conclusion, Sikhs believe that an awareness of that sacred relationship between humans and the environment is necessary for the health of our planet and for our survival. A new environmental ethic dedicated to conservation and wise use of resources provided by our bountiful nature can only arise from an honest understanding of our relationship with one another and with nature. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jagbir. And I think this was a perfect introduction to this kind of wider theme about our relationship to nature, which I think is the premise of all the faiths that we have. So I think this is a really great opening, and thank you very much for that. If you have any questions for Jagbir, please put them in the chat box, and we will continue with the presentation. Thank you very much. It is again my great pleasure to introduce our second speaker for today, Ms. Eda Molash Hussain, who is an experienced event coordinator. Eda is currently working as the Interfaith Youth Network Coordinator at Religions for Peace UK. Eda holds a master's degree in events design and management from the University of Westminster, with a particular focus on the role of sustainable development goals and sustainable education. Eda has implemented national effective interfaith discussions to promote sustainability and climate change issues among youth, and has participated in creating new forms of environmental diplomacy. As Religions for Peace Interfaith Youth Coordinator, Eda plans and leads in implementing interfaith projects for young people. She also organizes and delivers events and conferences and maintains an effective social media networks. Eda is also a member of the Religions for Peace UK Executive Committee. Presently, she is engaged in developing and empowering youth leadership training program for young people of faith. Her other interests include researching into social anthropology. She has worked in refugee camps in Greece and recorded fantastic oral histories of refugee women and young people. She is a regular contributor to several publications, including Faith Initiative Magazine UK. Eda is also an active university mentor at University of Westminster and has been training and encouraging young individuals. And I will now give floor to Eda, who will tell us more about her experiences.
Thank you very much, Alexandra, and thank you very much, Jagbir, for the precious presentation. I learned a lot. I will try to continue and cover the young perspective now, and I will speak about the interfaith youth perspective on the environment and COVID-19. Good morning and good afternoon. I'm delighted to be here today and be part of a very encouraging seminar exploring the actions taken by faith groups throughout the Commonwealth to protect the environment and combat climate change. Combating the environment problems and developing sustainability and sustainable practices is really, really important nowadays, and it's been really important for years now. And interfaith organizations should continue having their focus on it together. There have been many environmental exposures due to natural disasters throughout the year. Jagbir mentioned some of them in the UK already. Climate hazards and natural events in weather cycles, and also we've always had hurricanes, droughts and wildfires, flooding and high winds in the UK and across the world. However, we are currently witnessing a scale of destruction and devastation that is new and terrifying. We have seen many natural disasters happening throughout the world that are for climate action. The last year alone, and also this year, has seen a series of devastating climate disasters in various parts of the world, such as Australian wildfires, the East Africa drought, the floods in the UK and in other parts of the world, which we are facing currently. Also the deadly heat waves in India, Pakistan, and Europe from Mozambique to Bangladesh. Millions of people have already lost their homes, livelihoods, and loved ones as a result of more dangerous and more frequent extreme weather events. The research evidence by the Oxford Climate Emergency Programme shows the devastating results, which are the number of climate-related disasters has tripled in the last 30 years. between 2006 and 2021, the rate of global sea levels rise was almost 3 times faster than it was for almost all of the 20th century. And more than 20 million people a year are forced from their homes by climate change. As a young individual, I have to say that I'm doubtful, like many other individuals, not only youth when thinking individually, and also I feel confident when I think collectively. When I think the vision and values of our Religions for Peace UK Interfaith Youth Network and our community, I see the light that we can take an action for a positive, environmentally sound change and maintain a good future for the new generations, but also for ourselves. As far as young people are concerned, I am coordinating the Religions for Peace UK Interfaith Youth Network. And together with our youth steering committee, we consider the research as an important initiative as it adds value to our projects and learning from different initiatives and findings. We have been researching and having interviews and conducting a survey among young people about their concerns and what they would like to do now, how we could support each other, and where they would like to see themselves in the future. The outcomes of the research pointed out, and it is something that we are all really very much aware of, that young people these days are not too concerned about divisions between faiths. They are not too concerned much about the intra-religious and interreligious rivalry. What they want in general is to have a voice, a better well-being, equality, justice, and more sustainable world for now, but also for future. Such youth who are committed to learning from the past, taking an action in the present, and above all, are working together to build a sustainable future together based on a strong commitment to the values of peaceful coexistence. We all should come together to help solve environmental problems with implementing recycling habits into our daily lives, which is one of the most effective ways to help lessen landfill waste, conserve natural resources, save habitats, reduce pollution, cut down on energy consumption, and slow down global warming. As faith organizations and community groups, we should also hold events and webinars on environmental positive practices to offer a safe environment to individuals to share and learn from each other about the environmentally sound practices to combat this major issue that we are all facing in the world. That's how Religions for Peace UK Interfaith Youth Network started the series of My Faith and the Environment discussion to offer that space to young individuals of different faiths in the UK. We already held 2 parts of it with different respective faith traditions. And just to give some examples, so far we had representatives from different faiths talking about their successfully completed projects where they tried to teach and show people how they can practice environmentally friendly practices. For example, we did have our Muslim representative and steering committee member of Interfaith Youth Network, Davud Rahe, who is from Help Yatim UK. He ran during this Ramadan, a Ramadan plastic project, and he achieved to reduce and change lifestyles of some Muslims, and they learned how to reduce plastic usage during Ramadan. There was also Jainil Shah, just to give an example, who is our Jain representative, and he shared environmental harmony and the Jain viewpoint in consumerism and how we can improve our lifestyles and the environment with adjusting in more vegan lifestyle. as well as we continued having different individuals from different faith groups continuing with our part 2 discussion. We welcomed ECOSIC, we welcomed Quakers in Britain and many other respective organizations and faith communities, and they shared their experiences within their religions, how they could tackle the negative impact of human daily practices in our lives, and how we can change our behaviors, how we can have behavioral change and maintain a good sustainable present, but also offer a good sustainable future to the new generations. There is also a bigger danger, which is called pandemic, COVID-19, that we have been facing as a result of climate change. From an interfaith perspective, COVID-19 or viruses like this do not discriminate between people of faith. That is why we all have to get together for our survival, as it is a mutual concern. Scientists have been warning us about the dangers of possible potential viruses over the last 30 years, but these warnings have never been taken into account. It's about time that science and religion work together more closely and benefit people and the life on planet Earth. We have been ignoring these things for some time, and COVID-19 has forced us to rely on science, as our routines have changed extremely during this time, which has been really hard for everyone, and it's still ongoing. We need to have a major initiative to thank all those who are working with vaccines and trying to improve the vaccines and trying to have control of the viruses, because they have been the ones who are now providing some kind of solution to deal with the COVID-19 virus, who are people of faith too. And COVID-19 is itself one of the causes of the climate crisis. Also, it's wonderful to see that several places of worships have now opened up and have become vaccination centers, and they are providing vaccines. This is a very welcome development. It's important that people of interfaith, the leaders of interfaith, to come together to help for the future environmental security, as well as security in well-being, employment, and survival. This is going to be the major concern for now and the future. To conclude my words, I would like to point out that the threat of the COVID-19 pandemic will not end even with the control of this strain virus. The possibilities of future viruses may come, and we all have to be prepared to work together and come up with concrete actions to challenge this in the UK. All different age groups, all different perspectives, and all different expertise are very much welcomed to tackle this problem, as well as environmental issues. We need to come up with long-term answers to deal with all the environmental issues, because one of the clear reasons for the emergence of the virus and the natural disasters is that there has been deforestation, extinctions, and the climate change. COVID-19 and the natural disasters have helped to clarify the need to investigate biodiversity's role, and we should really aim for sustainable development, educate ourselves, and together work for concrete actions to help to solve the local, national, and worldwide challenges. There is a need for advocacy and for all different groups to get involved. We all need to be working on different ways of combating the worldwide environmental problems. And just to conclude my words, I would like to end with the words of a model for me, who is Wangari Maathai's words, who is a Kenyan politician and environmental activist who was awarded the 2004 Nobel Prize for Peace, becoming the first Black African woman to win a Nobel Prize. And she said then, if you continue to destroy forests, your rivers will eventually dry up. If we do not make this simple connection, the result will be a tragedy that our university degrees cannot change. It's really unfortunate to have the knowledge and not to be able to establish a simple connection and take the necessary steps. The important fact is that environmental issues are not just about tree planting, but that environmental issues concern justice, integrity, good governance, and honesty. Wangari Maathai's magic was her integrity and coming up with paradigm shifts in government and the importance of the values. And she campaigned to unite neighborhoods, regions, religions, countries together to collaborate for the good of the world. Thank you for your precious time. Please feel free to connect further for any questions. I will leave my email address in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eda. And again, some great questions that we're having here. One of the things that I was really particularly keen that we all hear is the role youth has now, and we all know that youth is essentially young people are key in delivering change. So their activism is really, really important. And Eda shared some of the great experiences how young people can get involved, and it's great to hear about that. But moreover, I think there is a common theme here between Jagbir and Eda, and this is this idea that there is an environmental justice issue and how environmental issues do not know for physical borders. Environmental issues do not discriminate. So I think this is really important that we all take a note of that, and I think we all share the same ideas. So thank you very much for that, and we'll be exploring this in the discussion session. I want to welcome our third speaker, Suresh Rajpura, who is the coordinator of the Hindu Education Forum Birmingham. Suresh is an experienced communicator on Hindu faith with particular expertise on Hindu perspectives on the environment and sustainability. Suresh regularly delivers talks to school children visiting Hindu temples, as well as schools and places of worship of other faiths and other interested groups. Suresh, in addition, delivers training and education using Zoom platform to distance places. And we all know that this medium has been really effective tool, especially during COVID situation. And I would now welcome Suresh to share his experiences with us today. Thank you very much, Suresh, for joining us today.
Namaste and good afternoon, everyone. Andrew, could we please play that shloka? Namaste and a very good afternoon to everyone. First of all, thank you for this wonderful opportunity to share with you the Hindu perspective on nature and the environment. The theme of today's topic is religious groups don't care about the planet. So allow me to share with you Hindu perspective on that. The very mantra, my friend, that we heard is one of the key important Vedic mantra, which is let there be peace in space, let there be peace in environment, in water, in plants, in vegetation, in air, and on earth. Now, when we say let there be peace in environment, what do we mean? Effectively, what the mantra is trying to teach us and tell us is that let all the elements be free from pollution. And that is very important. Moving forward, under very important shloka says, Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukpatve. This is very much similar to what Jagir Kaurji said, Sarbat Kabbalah, where here Hindu mantra is saying that may all be happy. And when we say may all be happy, we don't necessarily mean only Hindus be happy or only the humans be happy. What it literally means, let animals live in peace. that the vegetation, plants, rivers always live in peace and harmony with each other. So this is very, very important, because we can only truly be happy and healthy if everything around us, including what we call environment, is also in balance and free of pollution. So what is the view on Hindu view on this environment, as we keep calling them? If I could ask Andrew to bring up those 5 fingers thing, please. The picture of 5 fingers, Andrew. Okay. Now, Hindu view is very, very clear when it comes to the environment. It is very clear that, as you can see in the picture here, that us humans, we are not independent of or separate from the 5 elements. The Hindu view is very, very clear that we all are made up of 5 elements. That is earth, water, fire, space, and air. So since we are made up of those 5 elements, everything in us is out there, and what is out there is in us. So it is in our own interest that we look after the environment. Now, when we talk about taking care of the environment, let's be very, very clear from Hindu perspective. We are not doing any favor to plants or trees or air or anything. We are taking care of our own selves. As you can see in the picture here, that our thumb represents fire, first finger represents air, the largest finger represents space, the 4th one represents earth, and the 5th one water. Now that is very strange, isn't it, my friend, indeed? When we talk about the water, we all know that 70% of the earth's surface is covered by water. It is no coincidence that 70% of our body weight is also water. So you can see that there's just some direct connection between us and all the elements. If I could please ask Andrew to show the next picture of our trees and lungs, please. The next picture, Andrew, of the tree. Thank you. Right. Here we can see that trees are our external pair of lungs. They are not separate. As we already know that, my friends, everything is recycled in the world, yeah, including the air. So the trees are exactly doing just that thing for us. They are recycling the carbon dioxide that we're breathing out 24 hours a day and giving us the oxygen for which to survive. So it is an extra pair of lungs, but set outside. And that is why taking care of trees is extremely important, because they are pair of our lungs. We are, again, I would stress, we are not doing any favor to the environment when we take care of all these things. Now, in Hindu traditions, those who are familiar, you will find that 2 particular trees are given more importance: banyan and neem, and also the plant of the tulsi plant. Now, banyan tree, or the people tree as we call it in India, is a tree which gives oxygen 24 hours a day. Now, what have the Hindus done? The ancient rishis, we call it, or the scientists, or spiritual scientists, or environmental scientists. What they said, because there were no all these fancy scientific words as we use today, they said, right, this particular god lives or resides in that tree. This particular god lives or resides in that water. They deified everything. So people would respect and not cut the trees, or they will respect the river and not pollute the river. So everything was deified, everything was made more religious, but it had nothing to do with God or religion as such, but it was just portrayed that way so that people take care of the environment and they don't abuse those things. Now that is very important. Now when Hindus talk about earth, we do not treat earth as a piece of land or soil as such, but we call it Mother Earth. And when you call it Mother Earth, anything mother, you extend that respect and care to that mother person. So Mother Earth is earth, not just piece of land for us. The same way the goddess in the river, like we know famous Ganga, Yamuna, and all that thing, that is again given those sanctity so people take care of that thing. Those who have heard the name Hanumanji, is known as a Vayu Putra. Vayu means air. That means we take care of the air, we do not pollute the environment. And same goes for Agni Dev, and same goes for space in the Brahman. Now, we often talk about, and it's nowadays a fashionable thing to talk about human rights. But Hinduism extends the same right to animals, and that's why it advocates vegetarianism. Here, I must say that you don't have to be vegetarian to be Hindu, but it advocates that. And it also extends the same right to environment by saying that this god lives in that tree and this mother goddess lives in that water and all those things. It has nothing to do with God or religion, but it's just to show, to take care of those elements. So long as, my friends, Hindu view is very clear, we treat the rivers, the trees as separate external creations from our own self, we cannot fully take care of those environments. Let me put it in another way. How would Andrew feel about chopping his hand off? Would he do that? No, it will hurt. It will be painful. The fact that we cannot associate or relate directly to the trees and the rivers and the mountain and the air, they are not necessarily any separate or external creation from ourselves. They are one and the same. They are micro and macro, as we call it in science. And that is why it is very important that we do not treat ourselves as any higher, superior, or chosen people or children of God than we chose the environment. God there may be in the sky somewhere, we don't know. But one thing is true for us all, that the water, air, river, trees are absolutely essential for our very existence. I did mention that 70% of the water on the Earth's surface is water, whereas 70% in our body as well. And that's why, because Hindus believe that we are one and the same, and that we are not separate or independent of environment, that's why Hindus and people of Indic religions, we have a cremation system, that when the person dies, so to speak, there's no such a thing as death as such, but when the body perishes, we call it dehan, that it goes back to those environment it came from, or the element it came from. And that is why it is so important that we take care of environment, because by doing so, we are taking care of ourselves. Now, is it important? Well, probably in 200 or 300 years, you and me wouldn't be here, but our children will be. So if we want to give a safe, healthy, happy environment to our future generation, and we call children our future, then I think it is very important, beyond any reasonable doubt, that we do take care for environment. Now, what exactly is Hinduism as a religion doing in terms of the environment itself? I'm so happy to say that China has planted the largest number of trees in the world, followed by India. Now, this is very important. I bring China here as well. And I want to take this God and religion factor out of this environmental issue. And it's very important because religion brings emotions, not the objective attitude to that. China is not necessarily a religious country, as we all know that. And that's fine. From a Hindu point of view, you don't have to believe in any God. That is fine as well. That is your freedom of choice. Followed by India. China planted the largest number of trees, followed by India, like I said. Again, you can see that it has more to do with common sense and our own well-being, and then less to do with faith or God. But there's nothing wrong if anybody wants to believe in God and wants to do it in the name of religion, but it's a common sense. Good and balanced environment will ensure good and balanced healthy lifestyle for us. So what has India as a society done? And then I come to Hindus in particular. Like my colleague Jagir Koji mentioned, that the Paris Accord a few years back, India is a signatory, or one of the country who started this Paris Accord. Yeah, it planted 50 million trees in one single day, and that's the world record. That is in 2016. 800,000 volunteers came out and planted 600,000 trees in just one day. Sorry, 66 million trees along the river banks. The effort is commitment to India made at the Paris Climate Conference in 2015. In 2017, India planted 66 million trees. That's a huge number by any standard. In 2018, 1.5 million people came out and planted trees in 13 million hectares of land. That again is a world record. In 2019, India, when I say India, because we're talking about Hindu perspective, India has the largest Hindu population. All the Hindus don't go saying in the name of religion we do it, but that is their lifestyle and that is their attitude to the environment. In 2019, that's just 200 years ago, India planted 220 million trees. That is, we can say, Hindus' contribution to the environment or India's contribution. It's one and the same. 300,000 trees were planted in India just for disaster relief and biodiversity. 100,000 moringa trees again were planted in Uttar Pradesh of India. In last year, that is 2020, over 2.6 million trees were planted in India, providing rural employment during the pandemic, especially with the the COVID thing in mind. Five notable, there are big 5 Hindu organizations in India. People obviously are from Hindu faith in there, even if it doesn't have a Hindu title as such. They have planted more trees than any other organization in the world, according to the internet search. Who are they? The first one is Green Yatra. The second one is Project Green Hands. Now, here, this is special project by Isha Foundation. Some of you may have heard the name of Sadhguru Dev, right? He has undertaken to plant 141 million trees just in Tamil Nadu. So you can see how India and Hindu faith as a group, Sankalpataru, Sinutari, Setris are planting the trees in a huge number. This is a Hindu contribution to the world environment because we believe that we are not separate or independent from them and we are not doing any favor by planting trees. We are just taking care of ourselves. With that, I like to rest my case. Thank you very much for allowing me to share all that with you. We'll be very happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Suresh, and thank you for sharing the Hindu experience in addressing environmental sustainability and climate change. And if I can start by saying that we definitely see the commonalities between different religions. We're seeing some different themes that are affecting all of us. And, Ida, for example, said that young people are less concerned about interfaith disputes and are more interested in making a difference around the world. And I think this is a theme that is there in all the religions and regardless of where we all come from. And we saw some fantastic examples how religion can make a positive contribution to encouraging people to get involved. But I guess my questions to all the speakers, if you don't mind me starting with the questions, is what are the particular challenges that different religions face in getting people involved? Because I think this is the key question. What are the barriers to get involved in climate change action or any other environmental action? So I will just ask all the speakers if they can share their own experiences about the challenges that we all face. I don't know, Jagber, if you maybe want to start first.
So I suppose what I would think of is that if within the general population, within the community, the issue of environmental change and impact isn't talked about, you won't get any kind of change in mindset, particularly for, I'm thinking generationally. If the older generation isn't exposed to the concerns of the younger generation who are provided with that information via schools, but also through social media and through what they see, like social influencers like Greta Thunberg, the older generation don't have that knowledge. And I think what we do need to see in terms of creating a change in mindset is places of worship really engaging in that conversation, but also places of worship leading a change in how they address issues of climate change with reference to recycling, with reference to, say, for example, food and sustainability. And I suppose here I'm thinking of Karma Grow in Canada. They're providing food for food banks through a sustainable way. So they're fighting a social justice issue, i.e. poverty and everything, but they're also addressing the fact that if they are going to fight that inequality, they also have to address the environmental impact. So I think what you need to see is a dialogue happening intergenerationally, which creates changes in mindsets. And also, we have to see our places of faith leading in that conversation, but also leading by action in terms of what they do and how they address waste issues around green space. One of the things I have frequent disagreements with Sikh places of worship is that we have these beautiful marble buildings being built in the UK, for example, and great big massive car parks surrounding them, but with little green space, right? And if we think about inner city areas, and particularly, and I'll bring up the COVID situation again, where say some people might not have access to green space or land. If you have that attached to your place of worship, you kind of provide that element of life to the community, but you also then encourage that respect for biodiversity and recognition of how we need to engage in protecting the environment, because environmental health and then our own human health are interdependent.
Thank you very much. Eda, do you want to add anything? We have a lot of comments here actually about young people and what we should do. There's some fantastic comments that the older people need to give our votes to grandchildren. So some fantastic observations in the chat.
Yes, of course. I totally agree with Jagbir. Thank you for raising these points, as well as with Suresh. Thank you for your presentation. I think tackling environmental problems is something common, and so many people are more active in this tackling these challenges at the moment, and so many generations together are trying to learn and come up with solutions, and then have this kind of webinars or seminars to share their findings, because we want to learn from each other to see what worked and what can potentially work, so we can kind of adjust in our lifestyles, in our faith maybe, and try to find a solution together. So just to answer your question, you asked that the involvement on environmental issues over the years, there have been some challenges and also opportunities. Yes, I do agree with that. There is always challenges, but also opportunities. From my own perspective, I think there is a need for advocacy and for all different groups to get involved, as I mentioned during my presentation as well. We all need to be working on different ways of supporting each other. So what kinds of challenges there are? Well, when planning, we have to look out for each other's sensitivity, I guess, and make sure observance of rules are observed and respected, because we are all different from each other. And the opportunities that would potentially be born out of this togetherness is that working together promotes religious literacy and opportunities to forge friendships. This positivity can be brought back to single faith communities where they come from, and promote further participation of fellow believers to work together in the future. Thank you. That's my answer.
Thank you very much. And that answers some of the questions that we have here in the chat about what are the examples of collective action and what all we can do. But there are also, Suresh, there is quite a lot of, as you can see it in the chat, a lot of comments about planting trees, and essentially relates to what you have said. Are there any particular challenges that you see in your faith community that are worth of, or maybe are similar to what Jagbir and Eda have already mentioned?
I'd like to mention two things here, in addition to what my colleagues mentioned. The biggest problem, faith, this faith or that faith or no faith, is making people aware by way of some kind of education that their action affects the life right across the globe somewhere else. So, but the difficulty we all face is that we can't help people see the connection between their action and reaction somewhere on the planet. So we need to make them see how it relates to them. That way, perhaps they will take a greater care. One of the comment you may have seen, a very good friend of mine for last 30 years, Derek Osborne, that he does not celebrate birthday the way we normally do. He collects money and send the money to charity in Africa, which plants hundreds and hundreds of thousands of trees. So it is small action on our part can bring the big result in time to come. But educating the people, in particular the children, how their action affects in an adverse way somewhere else on the planet would go a long way to ease this problem or to minimize the environmental issues.
Thank you very much. And it also is, you will see in the chat, there's a common theme which is really important about the effect that plastic has on the environment. And I think this is one of the things that is affecting us all greatly. And I think that one of the questions is how all the faith communities are dealing with this issue and how we're essentially addressing this. Are there any particular examples that you may have? Some of the examples have been shared. I remember that Eda mentioned a few. Is there anything that you think it's worth of saying here about the use of plastics, because it's definitely one of the challenges in future. Suresh, please.
Right. One particular thing that comes to my mind from Hindu background is creating awareness amongst people to follow the vegetarian diet, because we are 7 billion people, but you know what? It pains me. My heart bleeds to say that we slaughter 64 billion animals a year. Now, to raise those 64 billion creatures, it takes immense amount of water, energy, resources, all that thing. So if people opted for vegetarian diet, it will go a long way to minimize the effect on environment and sustainability as well. But you don't have to be vegetarian. That's a freedom of your choice.
Thank you. Anyone else about plastic? Maybe if there's anything you want to share with us.
I think one of the things I would like to say with plastics is it's important for businesses and, for example, supermarkets to reduce the amount of plastic that they use. And I'm thinking with reference to, say, for example, the Sikh place of worship, the Gurdwara, when people take donations of food to the venue for it to be used in food, making food and consumption. And most Gurdwaras are now involved in recycling that plastic and everything. But sometimes you can just imagine that when you're in a rush and you're doing things that you kind of forget that element of doing it. So I think one of the onuses that needs to be placed, onus needs to be placed on the place of worship in terms of the production of food, is to make sure that they do recycle plastic. But I also think the responsibility is on the businesses to kind of have that change in mindset about how to reduce the amount of packaging that they have on their food, for example, so that we can curb the issue. One interesting thing I just wanted to kind of mention with reference to India is pollution is very high there. And I went to Amritsar a couple of years ago. And one of the interesting things I saw was they have bridges towards the Golden Temple, where along the walls they have, with the plastic bottles, they have put up plastic bottles within which they have planted plants to kind of curb that pollution within the city. So I just thought that was an interesting way of how to kind of then use that plastic in a positive way to try and curb some of that pollution.
Thank you very much. And you will see in the chat, there are some fantastic examples, something that Jagbir, you mentioned, of the places of worship. And we have some examples here that some of the temples in Birmingham stopped using all kinds of plastic since year 2018. So we're really seeing what is really important for us. So please have a look at the chat. Eda, is there anything in regard to young people and plastic that you would like to raise? Because young people are our future. And as I said, key in delivering this change.
I think what I can potentially add is that young people is the future, but we are learning from you, from Jagbir, from Suresh, from different leaders, and also people of faith that lived through the problems. These problems have been around for many, many years now. It's not that we are facing it just now. It's just the highest outpeak of it, and we are trying our best, really best, to tackle these problems, or try to kind of pose it, because we do see the impact of them, how bad it can reach. And I do know so many young people, also so many young people of faith are trying their best to clean the environment, plant more trees, and also be more considerate of what they are consuming, like reducing their plastic usage, as well as consuming more vegetarian or vegan products, because they do know the impact of consuming meat, how negative impact there is in our well-being, but also to the environment. So I think I would agree here with Jagbir and Suresh. The impact of technology, which I'm referring to social media, is quite high in this. And I think young individuals are more action related because they are receiving good practices or good examples of sustainable impact that they can also maybe fit in their lifestyles, and they are doing it. We all see it from different examples. Again, I will point out that education and good examples of training, maybe raising awareness, is always very much welcomed in this situation, because we do need to have a new paradigm. The old structure that we used to know has to change extremely. It started changing, but I think we need solid objectives. And I think it's not only up to the businesses, like Jagbir, you mentioned, and Suresh, you mentioned, so many great examples out there, but I think also upon government and councils working maybe more and more with different charities, NGOs, or different businesses, and maybe I don't want to say that word, but maybe even forcing to reduce plastic usage, or come up with different action points and policies when it comes to reducing plastic and the carbon levels that we are facing negatively still. That's my addition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And there is a quite an important discussion in the chat about, of course, clothes and the initiatives that we should have and reduce and work with fashion houses. So there is quite a lot of good initiatives here that we can see in the chat. But for the end, I have one of the maybe controversial questions that we have received, and this is that often people think that climate change activism is too political for faith communities to engage with. And I just wanted to ask you, what is your view of that? Because we're really seeing here great examples of how faith communities can engage. But as I said, there is a perception that this is too political. So I would just open to all three speakers and to hear their views on this question.
If I jump in, no, it's not political. For me, we have to, as people of faith, we have to participate in this activism. We have to advocate for our future generations. And we have to recognize that this isn't a party politics issue. This is an issue which affects all of us, irrespective of our race, culture, ethnicity, gender, whatever. And we all have a responsibility to voice our concerns. And it is our right and our duty to do. Now, I'm just thinking about, with reference to the Sikh faith, we have activism based on this whole concept of Miri Piri, which means this being present within the spiritual, but also the temporal realm. We have a duty to work within those. So it is our duty that we think about how we will address problems which are confronting the environment, which are then confronting our fellow beings, and how do we address them? Because if we don't challenge politicians or we don't engage in the political debate, then we are going to just allow things to kind of spiral out of control, where we will then see further inequalities within society and where the issues of social justice are not addressed. So I think actually it is imperative as faith communities we do participate in this dialogue.
Thank you very much. Eda, Suresh, would you like to add anything to this? Suresh,
Yes,
please.
if I may. Yeah, right. Well, this has nothing to do with the politics, but politicians have a habit of jumping on a bandwagon that anything is popular. So they will want to, get some mileage. I understand that. But on the other hand, that us, the people who care for environment, have to use political lobbying group to bring about some changes in manufacturing, emission, reducing the carbon emission and all that thing. So it's a partnership, but it's very important that we are not used for political purposes. That's very, very important. I also want to add very quickly to what Jagbir said earlier. Although I said, and I gave big numbers about India planting so many millions of trees every year, unfortunately, it's not all good either. 3 of the 5 most polluted cities in the world are in India. So India as a nation has a lot of cleaning up to do as well. It's not just planting. If we don't at the same time reduce the wastage, right, that we're not going to get farther forward. Thank you.
Eda, would you like to add anything? Because I think what we're seeing today, that actually young people are very, very active, and which is great to see. So what is your view about this criticism that, climate change is political and we shouldn't be engaged, which I think is wrong, and I agree with all the speakers, of course.
I totally disagree with this opinion as well, like Jagbir and Suresh. I would like to answer this question with commenting on and saying thank you for Jagbir and Suresh. I learned a lot today as a young individual. I'm pretty sure there are so many young individuals watching us and this discussion at the moment, and they learned a lot too. I would like to say that I know there are so many 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds out there trying not to buy products which are inside plastics. And that is giving me the hope that we can change the world. That's my word. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if I can end, Suresh, would you like to add anything, please?
In olden days in India, only about 100 years ago, and Jagbir Kaurji will know about India, if there was no plastic plates, plastic wasn't invented at that time, there was not even metal plates. People used to eat in what we call the tree leaves dishes, patra, right? And that was totally environmentally friendly. Sometimes, we think we are very modern, but we are doing more damage by being modern than if you follow the ancient culture. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if you allow me to end by saying that we really saw some fantastic examples here, how faith communities are essentially contributing and are key in making this environmental change. And we all agree here that environmental issues should not be politicized, and they are really affecting all of us. So I think this is something that we can definitely agree on today. And we saw some fantastic examples here in the chat, how different faith communities are contributing, and also we can see in the chat some of the common themes. And I will also add, there was one comment at the very end, which I think it's really important, that beside these actions that we all do, but we also have to change our mindset. I think this is also key to this whole action. So I just want to thank everyone here. I hope you have enjoyed the session. And I also want to thank once again to our speakers for really insightful talks. And I think we have learned a lot from each other, as Eda said. So thank you very much, everyone. And thank you very much, Andrew, for organizing this event. And I will also thank our participants as well. Thank you, everyone, and have lovely rest of the day and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a good day.
You